15 different people have brought up Squier in the comments on this channel without being asked. That is more than any other brand we have ever covered. And here is the strange part. Almost none of them agree with each other. One of you told me a Squier Affinity Jazz is bulletproof and nicely made. Another told me Squiers made in China are junk, in feel and in sound, and that his Japanese Squier Jazz is beautiful to play and to hear. A third said a Sonic for $200 comes off the same machines as a much more expensive Fender. A fourth is still gigging a 1989 Precision. They are not contradicting each other. They are describing completely different instruments that happen to have the same word on the headstock. And that is the entire problem with this brand. Squier is not one thing. Over 40 years it has been built in Japan, in Korea, in China, in Indonesia and in India, at wildly different quality levels, under series names that get retired and reused. The word Squier on a headstock tells you almost nothing on its own. So this video does two things. First, it gives you the one piece of information that actually tells you what you are holding, and it is not the series name. Second, it goes through 12 Squier basses worth owning, from $260 up to genuine collector territory. And it is honest about the ones that are not worth it anymore. Before we start, the usual note, nobody is paying for this. Every topic on this channel comes out of your comments, which is exactly how this one got made. And when we get something wrong, we give the correction its own segment instead of quietly editing it out. If you want all of this written down, there is a link in the description. Now, here is the thing that matters more than the series name. Look at the serial number. Not the sticker on the box, not the tier, the serial number, and specifically the letters at the front of it. Those letters tell you the factory, and the factory is what you are actually buying. JBAI or SQ means Japan, made at the Fujigen plant between 1982 and 1984. These are the first Squiers ever built. They were made specifically to fight the Japanese copies that were beating Fender at its own game. And they are frequently described as matching or beating American Fender production of the same period. They are collector's instruments now. S, E, or V at the front means Korea. CY or CGS means China. IC or ICS means Indonesia, and specifically the Cort factory, which is worth knowing because Cort also builds instruments for a long list of brands people pay a lot more for. ISS means India. That prefix is on every Squier ever made. It takes 4 seconds to read, and it tells you more than the marketing name does. If you learn one thing from this video, learn that. Now, the 12. Number 1, the Squier Sonic Bronco bass at around $260. 30-inch scale, 1 single coil pickup, 1 volume, 1 tone. This is the cheapest genuinely serviceable bass in the entire Fender family, and the short scale makes it the honest answer for small hands. For guitar players who need a bass for recording, and for anyone whose reach is not what it was. It is not a great instrument. It is an astonishing amount of usable instrument for the money. Number 2, the Squier Sonic Precision Bass. Same tier, full scale, the most standard bass sound in recorded music at the lowest price Fender will sell it to you. If somebody in your house is starting bass this month, this is the one. Do not overthink it. Number 3, the Squier Affinity Precision Bass PJ at around $370. This is the Precision with a jazz pickup added at the bridge, which is the single most useful pickup configuration in the budget world, because you get the P sound, the bridge bite, and the blend between them. If you only ever own one cheap bass, the PJ layout is the one that covers the most ground. Number 4, the Affinity Jazz Bass V, a 5-string, from Squier at Affinity money. The B string on a bass this cheap is never going to be a Ken Smith B string, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. But if you need a 5-string to find out whether you actually want a 5-string, this is the cheapest sane way to answer that question. Number 5, the classic Vibe 60s Precision Bass. And this is where we have to be honest, because the classic Vibe line is where most of the Squier love comes from, and it is also where the price has moved the most. Classic Vibe basses now sit between roughly $430 and $560 depending on model and finish. They are very good. The Fender-designed Alnico pickups, the vintage tinted neck, the period-correct hardware. This is a properly built instrument, but it is no longer a $200 secret, and we will come back to what that means. Number 6. The classic vibe 70s jazz bass. Block inlays, bound neck, that slightly hotter 70s bridge pickup voice. For a lot of players, this is the sound in their head when they think jazz bass, and this is the cheapest honest version of it. Number 7. The classic vibe 70s jazz bass fee at around $560. Same instrument, 5 strings, and this is a meaningfully better 5-string than the Affinity. Longer scale feel, better pickups, better B-string. If you have decided you are a 5-string player, this is the point in the Squier line where that actually gets served properly. Number 8. The classic vibe 60s Mustang bass. Short scale again, but this is a very different animal to the Bronco. Proper split pickup, proper build, and a thumpy, round, slightly compressed voice that turns up on more records than people realize. Short scale is not a beginner compromise. It is a sound. Number 9. The classic vibe Jaguar bass. Offset body, 2 pickups, more switching than a bass this price has any right to have. This is the one that people buy for the looks and keep for the versatility. Number 10. The classic vibe bass 6. 6 strings, tuned an octave below a guitar, 30-inch scale. This is not a bass guitar in the normal sense, and you should not buy it as your only bass. But if you write, if you record, if you want the sound that sits under a track and is neither guitar nor bass, there is nothing else at this price that does it. Number 11, and this is the actual goldmine on this list, the Vintage Modified Series, used. Squier discontinued Vintage Modified in 2019 and expanded Classic Vibe to replace it, which means there is a whole line of well-regarded instruments. Jaguars, jazz basses, Precisions, the Bass 6, sitting on the used market with no current model to compare them against and no marketing pushing their price up. They are the least fashionable, good Squiers in existence. That is exactly what you want. Number 12, the Japanese ones, JV and SQ prefixes, 1982 to 1984, and behind them the Korean Squier 2s of the late 80s, which several of you have told me you are still gigging. These are not budget instruments anymore, and you should not expect budget prices. But if you have ever wondered why some people talk about Squier as though it were a serious brand, this is why. This is where it started, and it started very high. Now the honest part, because this list would be dishonest without it. Squier prices have crept up. A Sonic Bronco at $260, an Affinity PJ at $370, a Classic Vibe at $430 to $560. Those are real numbers, not the numbers in your memory. Squier is no longer the brand that undercuts everything. And once a Classic Vibe crosses $500, you are shopping in the same aisle as a used Mexican Fender. And that is a genuinely close call that goes either way depending on what is actually in the shop that day. Second honest thing, the electronics and the hardware are where the money was saved, on every tier below Classic Vibe. Pickups and tuners are the first things people replace. That is fine, but budget for it and remember that $100 of parts on a $370 bass gets you to Classic Vibe money without a Classic Vibe. Third, setup out of the box is a lottery, and fret ends are the usual complaint. Every instrument on this list gets meaningfully better after a proper setup. If you cannot do one yourself, add the cost of one to every price you just heard. Fourth, and nobody likes this one, modern Squiers do not hold their value. You will not get your money back. The Japanese ones will. Almost nothing in between will. So 3 questions before you buy one. First, have you read the serial number? Not the tier. The prefix. 4 seconds. Second, are you comparing it against a used instrument at the same price? At Sonic and Affinity money, new Squier usually wins. At Classic Vibe money, it is genuinely a fight. Third, is short scale actually what you want? Because 2 of the best instruments on this list are short scale, and most people never seriously consider one. Here is the honest verdict. Squier is not a budget brand that occasionally makes something good. It is 5 or 6 different manufacturing histories wearing the same logo, and the difference between the best and the worst of them is larger than the difference between most other brands' entire ranges. The Sonic Bronco and the Affinity PJ are the value plays. The classic vibes are properly good instruments at prices that are no longer a steal. The used vintage modifieds are the thing nobody is bidding on. And the Japanese ones are the reason anybody takes this brand seriously in the first place. Tell me in the comments which Squier you own and what the serial number starts with. I have a suspicion the people who love this brand most are holding letters that most buyers have never looked at. Subscribe for honest, no-hype truth about bass gear. And if you have a Squier that has been in your hands for 30 years, say so. Those are the comments that end up becoming videos.